October 14th, 1943. 25,000 feet above Schweinfurt, Germany. The sky is already filled with smoke. Inside a B-17 flying fortress, Staff Sergeant Jack Turner grips his .50 caliber machine gun as the aircraft shudders violently. Flak bursts bloom like black flowers all around them, close enough to feel. The intercom crackles with overlapping voices, some shouting, some praying. "Bandits! 12 o'clock high!" You don't see the German fighters at first. You hear them. A high-pitched scream cutting through the freezing air. Then they're there. Messerschmitt Bf-109s dive out of the sun, guns flashing. A B-17 just ahead takes a direct hit to its wing root. Fire erupts instantly. For a moment, the bomber keeps flying, stubborn, almost defiant. Then the wing folds. It falls away silently. No parachutes, and Turner doesn't have time to think about it. He squeezes the trigger. The gun bucks hard against his gloves as tracer rounds arc into the sky. The formation holds tight, because it has to. That's the only thing keeping them alive. Below them, Oberleutnant Karl Fischer of the Luftwaffe pulls his fighter up into position for another attack run. His oxygen mask fogs with each breath as he watches the American formation. There are too many. Even now, after weeks of shooting them down, there are still too many. "Unglaublich," he mutters. "Unbelievable." The Americans fly in tight combat boxes, their bombers overlapping fields of fire. Each B-17 bristles with machine guns, nose, tail, dorsal, ventral. A flying fortress, just like they call it. Fischer lines up another pass anyway. He has to. The target is Schweinfurt, Germany's critical ball-bearing factories. Without them, tanks don't roll, aircraft don't fly. The entire war machine begins to grind to a halt. That's why the Americans keep coming, day after day, week after week. Back in the bomber, the co-pilot slumps forward. Blood stains his jacket. The pilot doesn't look. He can't. One hand grips the yoke, the other fights the controls as flak tears through the fuselage. "Bomb run in 30 seconds. The bombardier takes over. The plane steadies unnaturally, straight and level. The worst place to be. Flak zeroes in instantly. Explosions rock the aircraft. Metal screams. The smell of burning insulation fills the cabin. Bombs away. The payload drops. The aircraft lurches upward, suddenly lighter. And then, it's time to turn back. But turning back doesn't mean safety. It means running the gauntlet again. Fischer dives once more, closing fast on a straggling B-17. It's trailing smoke, falling behind formation. Easy prey. He opens fire. Bullets rip into the bomber's tail. The rear gun goes silent. But then, the dorsal turret swings. Gunfire erupts. Fischer jerks his stick hard. Too late. Rounds tear through his wing. The aircraft shudders violently. He pulls away, barely in control. Another pilot is gone. Another attack failed. And still, the bombers keep coming. Hours later, the sky's empty. Or at least, it should be. Fischer lands, exhausted. His ground crew rushes toward the damaged fighter. He pulls off his mask, face pale, eyes distant. "How many did we get?" one mechanic asks. Fischer doesn't answer immediately, and he looks back toward the horizon. Smoke trails still linger in the distance. "Not enough," he finally says. "Because tomorrow, they will be back. And the day after that. And the day after that." By late 1943, something has become terrifyingly clear to the German defenders. It doesn't matter how many bombers they shoot down. It doesn't matter how heavy the losses are. The Americans keep coming. Factories burn, Rail lines collapse. Cities tremble under constant threat. But what truly unsettles the Luftwaffe isn't just the destruction. It's the pattern. You destroy 20 bombers, and 30 return. You kill trained crews, and new ones appear. You win the battle in the sky, and somehow you're still losing the war. Fisher sits alone that night, staring at a map marked with red circles. Targets struck, targets yet to come. Each one represents another mission, another wave, another day of fighting something that doesn't seem to weaken. For the first time, a thought begins to form. Not fear, not yet, but something close to it. What if this isn't something Germany can stop? Type continue to generate the next section. November 3rd, 1943. RAF Bassingbourn, England. The engines start before sunrise. A low rolling thunder spreads across the English countryside as rows of B-17 flying fortresses come to life. Ground crews move with practiced precision, their breath visible in the cold morning air. Fuel trucks pull away. Bomb carts roll into position. Inside briefing rooms, hundreds of airmen sit shoulder to shoulder. A curtain is pulled back. The target is revealed. A line stretches deep into Germany. You can feel the shift in the room instantly. Some men stare at the map, others look down. A few force quiet smiles. They all understand what it means. Deep penetration, no fighter escort all the way, and heavy resistance. Captain William Harris, pilot of a B-17 named Iron Saint, studies the route carefully. He traces it with his finger, across the Channel, over occupied Europe, into the heart of the Reich. Flak zones marked in black, known fighter bases circled in red. It's a map of danger. But it's also something else. Routine. Same as yesterday, his co-pilot mutters. Harris doesn't respond, because it isn't the same. Yesterday, they lost 6 aircraft from their group. The day before, 8. And yet today, the runway is still full. Outside, new bombers have already arrived, factory fresh, and the clean aluminum skin gleaming under the pale sun. Replacement crews stand beside them, young, quiet, some barely out of training. They watch the veterans with a mixture of admiration and unease. One of them asks a ground crewman, "How many missions you think we'll fly?" The crewman shrugs. "Depends how lucky you are." At 0800 hours, the first wave begins to taxi. Dozens of bombers roll forward in sequence, each one heavy with fuel and explosives. The engines roar louder, building into something almost continuous, like the earth itself is shaking. Then, one by one, they lift into the sky. From above, the formation grows. Small groups join into larger ones. Larger groups merge into massive combat boxes. Until the sky is filled, hundreds of aircraft, moving as one. Back in Germany, radar stations begin to detect them. Blips appear. Then more. Then too many to count easily. At a Luftwaffe command center, officers gather around the plotting table. "Another raid," one says. "How large?" The operator hesitates. "Very large." Orders are sent out immediately. Scramble all available fighters. Prepare flak batteries. Alert defenses across the route. But there's a problem. There's always a problem now. Fuel is limited. Pilots are exhausted. Aircraft are worn. And the bombers? They keep coming in numbers that don't make sense. Oberleutnant Karl Fischer stands beside his aircraft again, watching the sky. Another day. Another interception. But something has changed. He remembers the early days. The bombers came in smaller groups then. Easier to break apart. Easier to destroy. Back then, the Luftwaffe could concentrate force. Back then, and they had control. Now the sky belongs to someone else. "Start engines," comes the order. Fisher climbs into his cockpit, movements automatic. But his thoughts aren't, because he's begun to notice something deeply unsettling. Even when they inflict heavy losses, even when entire formations are shattered. The next day, the formations are just as large. Where are they coming from? Back in England, the answer is already in motion. Factories across the United States are producing aircraft at a staggering pace. Detroit, Seattle, California. Entire assembly lines run day and night. Men and women work in shifts that never seem to end. Riveting, welding, assembling. A B-17 rolls off the line, then another. Thousands of miles away, ships carry them across the Atlantic. Pilots ferry them to England. Crews are trained, assigned, deployed. Losses are replaced almost as quickly as they happen. Inside Iron Saint, Harris checks his instruments as the formation crosses into hostile territory. The intercom is quiet now. Everyone is focused. Everyone is waiting. "Flak expected in 5 minutes," the navigator says. Harris nods. "Hold formation." Below them, German defenses prepare. Guns are loaded, fuses are set. Fighter squadrons climb rapidly to intercept. The collision is inevitable. But this time, it feels different. Because for the first time, the Germans are beginning to understand something crucial. This isn't just an air battle. It's an industrial war. And in that war, the Americans are fighting with something far more powerful than guns. They are fighting with production. Fisher pushes his throttle forward, climbing to meet the incoming bombers once again. But as the formation stretches endlessly across the horizon, a thought cuts through his focus. Even if we shoot them down, will it even matter? October 14th, 1943. Over central Germany. The bombers have no escort. Not this deep. Inside Iron Saint, Captain William Harris feels it before he sees it. A tension in the formation. A silence over the intercom. Even the gunners, usually quick with chatter, have gone quiet. Then the first call comes in. "Bandits forming up. High, 12 o'clock. Lots of them." Harris squints through the windshield. At first, just dots, then shapes, then dozens. German fighters. More than usual. Much more. Below and above, they gather. BF-109s and FW-190s forming attack groups, organizing with precision. They are not rushing in recklessly today. They are waiting, coordinating, preparing something different. Oberleutnant Carl Fischer circles high above, watching the American formation approach. Today, the orders are clear. No wasted attacks, no scattered strikes. Break them, destroy them. "Wait for the signal," his squadron leader says over the radio. Fisher tightens his grip on the controls. This time, they might actually stop them. The bombers fly on. Steady, predictable, vulnerable. "Flak in 30 seconds, the navigator warns. Then the sky erupts. Black bursts detonate all around the formation, closer than before, more accurate. Entire sections of sky are filled with explosions. The bombers shake violently as shrapnel tears through metal and flesh. A B-17 to the left disintegrates midair. Another spirals downward, wing gone. "Hold formation," Harris shouts, because breaking formation means death. Then the fighters hit, from the front. It's something new, something devastating. German fighters charge head-on into the bomber formation, firing heavy cannons and rockets. The closing speed is terrifying, seconds to aim, seconds to survive. Inside Iron Saint, The nose gunner opens fire. Coming straight at us. The enemy aircraft grows rapidly in the windshield. Too fast, too close. Both sides fire. The German fighter flashes past. So close, Harris sees the pilot's face. Then, an explosion. The nose of a nearby B-17 is torn open completely. Gone. Just gone. Jesus Christ, someone whispers over the intercom. This is not like before. This is slaughter. Wave after wave of German fighters press the attack. Head on. From the sides. From above. The American guns fire constantly, barrels glowing, ammunition belts feeding endlessly. But it's not enough. Bombers fall, one after another. Fisher makes his pass. He lines up on a formation dead ahead, aiming for the lead bomber. He fires everything, machine guns, cannon shells, watching impacts tear across the aircraft's fuselage. But it doesn't break apart. It keeps flying. He pulls away, frustrated. Another pilot takes his place, then another. Still the formation holds. Inside Iron Saint, the bombardier takes control. Bomb run. The aircraft stabilizes again. Straight, level, exposed. Flak intensifies instantly. Explosions hammer the bomber. Warning lights flash. Bombs away. The payload drops. Far below, explosions ripple across the target. Mission accomplished. But the worst part isn't over. Turning for home, the formation is smaller now. Much smaller. Gaps everywhere. Smoke trails marking where bombers used to be. And the fighters are still coming. Harris looks out across the sky. What he sees makes his stomach sink. They're alone. No escort. No relief. Just a handful of damaged bombers trying to make it back across hundreds of miles of enemy territory. Hours later, over the English Channel, the survivors begin to land. Ground crews watch in silence, because they know. Too many are missing. The final count comes in. 60 bombers lost, over 600 men gone. One of the worst losses of the war. Back in Germany, Fisher lands again. This time, there is no frustration, no confusion. They did it. They broke them. In the debriefing room, reports come in rapidly. Dozens of bombers destroyed. Massive casualties. For the first time in months, it feels like a real victory. But then, a question. How many turned back? The officer hesitates. Checks the report again. Most of them still reach the target. The room goes quiet. Even after everything, even after that level of destruction, they still got through. Fisher stares at the map again, at the route, at the targets, and then he realizes something far worse than defeat. This was their best effort, and it still wasn't enough. He leans back slowly, the weight of it settling in. Because if this is what it takes to stop one raid, how do you stop them all? December 24th, 1943. 30,000 feet over the North Sea. The sky is empty. At least it seems that way. Inside Iron Saint, Captain William Harris scans the horizon, eyes tired but alert. The last mission still lingers in his mind. Burning aircraft, empty formations, the long silence on the return flight. They all felt it. They all knew something had to change. Escort rendezvous in 2 minutes, the navigator says. Harris frowns slightly. 2 minutes? That's new. Until now, escort fighters, P-47 Thunderbolts and Spitfires, could only accompany the bombers part of the way. Once fuel ran low, they turned back, and that's when the Germans struck, hardest, deadliest. But today is different. A voice crackles over the radio. Your blue leader to Fortress Group, we've got you. Harris looks out again, and then he sees them, sleek, fast, closing rapidly. P-51 Mustangs, dozens of them. They slide into formation alongside the bombers, wings steady, engines humming with controlled power. Their long-range fuel tanks hang beneath them, proof that they can go the distance. All the way in, all the way out. For the first time, the bombers are not alone. "About damn time," the co-pilot mutters. Below, German radar stations detect the incoming formation again. But something is different. Additional contacts, fast movers. The operators exchange glances. This wasn't expected. At the Luftwaffe airfield, Oberleutnant Karl Fischer receives the scramble order once more. He climbs into his aircraft, engine roaring to life. But as he lifts into the sky and climbs toward interception altitude, he sees them. Not just bombers, fighters, and not turning back. They're staying. "Enemy fighters with them," a voice warns over the radio. "Engage bombers as ordered," comes the reply. Fischer tightens his jaw. This complicates everything. He approaches cautiously now, no longer diving straight into the formation. Because now he's being watched. Hunted, a Mustang breaks formation, dives, fast, too fast. Fischer reacts instantly, rolling hard to avoid the incoming attack. Tracer fire streaks past his canopy. He pulls into a climb, trying to shake the pursuit. But the Mustang stays with him. It climbs better, accelerates faster, and it doesn't break off, not for the first time in months. Fischer is no longer the hunter. He's the target. Across the sky, the battle changes. German fighters attempting head-on attacks are intercepted before they can even reach the bombers. Others are chased away. Some are shot down outright. The formation holds tighter now. Stronger. Inside Iron Saint, the gunners notice it immediately. Less pressure today? Yeah, they're not getting close. Harris allows himself a small breath. Not relief, but something close to it. Because now, they have a shield. And that changes everything. Weeks pass, then months. The missions continue. Still dangerous. Still deadly. But different. Losses begin to drop. German fighters are forced into defensive positions, reacting instead of attacking freely. Pilots grow more cautious, more hesitant. And every time they rise to meet the bombers, the Mustangs are there, waiting. Fischer sits in the debriefing room again, listening as reports come in. More losses, more aircraft destroyed. But this time, they are German. He studies the numbers carefully, then looks at the map. The bombers are going deeper now, hitting more targets, more frequently, and there is nothing stopping them. Because the one advantage the Luftwaffe had, freedom to attack, is gone, replaced by constant threat, constant pressure, just like the bombers once brought to them. Fischer exhales slowly, a realization settling in, heavier than before. It wasn't just the number of bombers. It was everything behind them, the factories, the fuel, the pilots, and now, the fighters, an entire system, an entire machine, and it cannot be matched. He looks down at his hands, slightly shaking, because now he understands something with absolute clarity. This war in the sky is no longer a fight. It's a collapse. September 12th, 1944. 26,000 feet over central Germany. The bombers arrive before the smoke has cleared. Below, the ruins of a synthetic fuel plant still burn from yesterday's raid. Twisted steel, shattered concrete, and blackened earth stretch for miles. Emergency crews haven't even finished pulling bodies from the wreckage. And already, the sirens begin again. Inside Iron Saint, Captain William Harris watches the columns of smoke rising from the ground. "Same target?" his co-pilot asks. Harris nods. Same target. That's the new strategy. Not just bombing, but returning. Again, and again, and again. No time to rebuild, no time to recover. On the ground, German workers scatter toward shelters as the first distant rumble reaches them. Some don't even run anymore. They just walk, slow, exhausted. No knowing it won't matter if the bombs land close enough. Above them, the formation stretches across the sky. Hundreds of bombers, dozens of escort fighters weaving around them like guardians. And behind them, more are coming. At a Luftwaffe command post, the situation board is crowded with markers. Too many raids, too many directions. An officer points at the map. They're hitting fuel again. Luna, Merseburg, everywhere. Another officer shakes his head. We can't cover all targets. Because that's the new reality. It's not just one raid anymore. It's multiple. Simultaneous. Relentless. Oberleutnant Karl Fischer stands near the edge of the airfield, watching another formation pass overhead. Too high to reach in time. He doesn't move, doesn't run to his aircraft. He already knows, even if he gets airborne. Even if he reaches them, the Mustangs will be there. And even if he gets through, even if he shoots one down, there will be more. Always more. In the distance, anti-aircraft guns begin firing. The sky fills with flak bursts once again. But something has changed. The explosions feel thinner, less dense. A gun crew commander looks at his remaining shells. Then, at the sky. They are running low. Factories that once produced ammunition have been hit. Rail lines that delivered supplies are broken. Fuel shortages limit everything, from transport to training. The system is failing, and above it all, the bombers keep coming. Inside Iron Saint, the bombardier lines up the target. The plant is already damaged, but not destroyed. Bombs away. The second wave hits. Explosions tear through what remains of the facility. Storage tanks erupt into fireballs. Pipelines rupture. Smoke rises even thicker than before. Below, the workers who survived yesterday now face the same nightmare again. And tomorrow, it will happen again. Weeks pass. The attacks intensify. Oil refineries, rail yards, factories, airfields, each one struck repeatedly. Systematically, the goal is no longer just destruction, it's paralysis. Back at the Luftwaffe base, Fischer walks past a line of grounded aircraft. Some damaged, some perfectly intact, but none flying. There's no fuel. A mechanic looks up as Fischer passes. When do we get more? He asks. Fischer doesn't answer, because he doesn't know. Pilots sit idle, engines stay cold, and overhead, the bombers pass unchallenged. Inside the command structure, desperation grows. Orders become more aggressive, more reckless. Young, barely trained pilots are sent into combat. Some don't even reach the bombers, others never return. The losses mount, but replacements don't. Not anymore. Fischer sits alone in the briefing room that night. The same room where, months ago, victories were still discussed, still possible. Now, it's different. Reports come in quietly, factories destroyed, fuel production collapsing, aircraft grounded. He stares at the map again, but this time, there are no red circles left to mark. Everything is already a target. Everything is already under attack. And then, finally, the realization fully settles in. Not sudden, not dramatic, but heavy. Inevitable. They never stopped coming. And we never found a way to stop them. Above Germany, the sky no longer belongs to those defending it. It belongs to those who can return to it. Every day. Without fail. And that is something no amount of courage, no amount of skill could ever overcome.